Ready?
Okay, I know you can't see me. For Selectwoman Erica Waschinsky, I will call to order a regular meeting of the Willington Board of Selectmen. Today is April 5th, 2021. The next item on our, I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m. The next item, I'm back in a room with the flag, so we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if the Selectmen will join me in a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America,
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Give me a moment while I adjust.
It's a little tricky to do that all at the same time
It
with the
is.
feedback. So apologies for any overspeed.
There I am. Okay, so I did this. I'm not as quick on the camera. Okay. All right, so as you can see, I am in the common room for a meeting. I just thought I'd try a different space. We added the Pledge of Allegiance back to our agenda, and so there's a flag here where there's not one in my office. The next item is approval of minutes. You will notice, John and Liza, in your packet, there are several minutes. We had several special meetings. So I'll start by making a motion to approve the minutes of our March 15th, 2021 regular meeting.
Second the motion.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. All right, then we had a special meeting on March 19th.
I would make a motion that we accept the minutes of the special meeting of March 19th with the following addition. Selectman Blessington objected to the format of the hybrid meeting on the grounds that it was likely to disenfranchise a number of voters, to wit, one of a pair of cohabitating couples who might be sharing a computer, since only one vote may be cast per device, citizens who own older mobile phones or computers that lack a camera, or citizens, especially older ones, who may not be up to date on modern technology.
Any other discussion? Oh, was there a second? I apologize.
That was his second, right? With
No, that was his
the,
motion. That was his motion.
oh, sorry. I'll second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of an ongoing discussion about that as well, in terms of, us planning and trying to troubleshoot. So I apologize that I'm just looking at the minutes right now. But yeah, there was quite an extended conversation around that question.
Well, I just wanted to show that I voted no on the town meeting. I was not voting against the town meeting itself, but because I objected to the format of it.
Any other discussion on the motion? If seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Right, motion carries. The next meeting was our special meeting on March 22nd. I will make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from March 22nd, 2021.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
I'm sorry, which one are we on at the moment? The 22nd or the,
March 22nd.
okay.
That was.
I was
the-
not in attendance, so I abstain.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. And last, we have our special meeting for March 29th. I will make a motion to approve the minutes for March 29th.
Second,
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, next item is correspondence. You will see a list of correspondence in your packet.
We're gonna do present to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, I checked that off too soon. Okay, so present to speak. If you are on the call with us and you would like to speak, I ask you to state your name for the record and limit yourself to 2 minutes. Is there anyone present to speak? Heather, do they have the ability to unmute themselves? So you should all have the ability to unmute yourself if you would like to speak. Yes, sir.
Hi, Jim Bulick, Laurel Drive. Two items. Number one, in Hartford there seem to be a bunch of legislative proposals advocating for planning and zoning decisions to be made in Hartford. I think these decisions are best made locally. As you know, I've advocated for that. I've sent you folks a letter. And if at all possible, I've of course encouraged our local Senate and Representative Nuccio and Champagne to oppose these items. But if you folks could take a stand and do so as well, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you. The other item is I believe you're going to appoint a vacancy on the school building committee. I'd like to speak in favor of Mr. Ralph Toulis, a longtime resident of our town with construction experience, with planning and zoning experience, and of course, an alum of the school. I think he'd be a welcome addition to that team. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak? All right, seeing none, you will have an opportunity again towards the end of our meeting to speak. Okay, that brings us to correspondence. You will see a list of correspondence, John and Liza, in your packet. Any questions? I'll move on to first Selectmen update. I'll update you on the STEEP grant. Since our last meeting, we did hear from DEEP. And they are working on putting the contract together. So we hope to hear from them soon. The STEEP project was for the old town hall septic system and some refurbishment inside. School building committee will meet tomorrow. No, Wednesday. I apologize, change my scenery and get all flustered. They will meet this Wednesday, the 7th. We're on to Wednesday, the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of the month schedule moving forward. The lot SIP grant, we're still working with CROG. Mike D'Amato worked with DOT coordinating portions of the project that they are responsible for. There were some items in the plan that have been taken out because DOT is doing them as the portion of a separate standalone project, and things that we had in our plan in the cost estimates and that were not covered. So we're working to see if we can make any adjustments to the scope of the project with those dollars changed. So we'll keep you posted. And then the next step after that would be the RFP for final design. I did want to give you a little bit of a budget update. Budget hearing is scheduled for tomorrow at 7 p.m. and that will be on Zoom with a special Board of Finance meeting immediately following. At the last Board of Finance meeting, the board made a significant cut to our budget, specifically in 2 areas. In Public Works, they cut our budget by $60,000. That represented, from their discussions, what they were looking at was the new employee we had asked for, as well as a new dump truck, plow truck replacement in CIP. While I understand they may have concerns about adding an employee, I still say that we are understaffed in this department. And this was trying to bring that staffing up to a more manageable level. But cutting the truck that was in CIP that was set to be replaced last year was put off because of COVID will only contribute to, in my opinion, more maintenance and repair costs, as well as a backup of trucks that need to be replaced after this, right? So what they're gonna do is bottleneck, and when we need 2 trucks replaced and we're down multiple vehicles, it's gonna cause an issue. So if either of you are at that meeting, I strongly encourage that we support, at the very least, putting that truck back into the CIP plan. It was cut from the public works budget because the lease payments come out of that budget. And so that's where those dollars were directly affected. I was disappointed to see that, but I still stand firm and will make those comments tomorrow that additional staff member is needed. I understand the times that we're in, but we know we're significantly understaffed in public works, and it's really hard to make any forward progress. We get done what absolutely has to get done, but there are a lot of things that we're not able to do and build upon with the small staff that we have. The other area that they cut was in employee insurances, and they cut that department by the equivalent to what we had budgeted for a new staff member. And so those were the 2 cuts that were made to the selectmen's budget. Do you have any questions? I would also encourage that this board, whether it was unanimous or not, passed a budget, and that it's our responsibility after that. I presented that budget to the Board of Finance, that we accurately share the details of the budget that was passed by the Board of Selectmen. There was some misinformation directed back towards board members of the Board of Selectmen. So we passed a budget that had specific dollars in it. So I'd encourage both of you to take a look at the budget and make sure that we're accurately representing it farther.
I have a question for you. Was the
Yeah.
corresponding money that was a reduction out of a following line item for snow removal, was that added back in since having our own staff person? So not only then was the money cut for the staff person, the corresponding amount that we would need to hire a subcontractor for snow removal was not there. So now we're not getting the same level of snow removal that we currently.
That is correct. With the dollars they put forth, we would have to do some real shifting around it. Maybe some of the other increases that we had budgeted for may not be able to happen depending on our snow contractor work. If we need someone to remove the snow, if it's not our own staff member, it's going to need to be snow contractors. So there's a real concern by cutting $60,000 out of that budget, the ramifications. I'm not sure fully understood, and sharing that with the public at a budget hearing tomorrow is important. I advocated for that. I fought for that during the Board of Finance meeting. We did not increase our snow budget, as members said had been done. We increased in a staff member, and we actually decreased our snow budget and left our roads budget flat. So when I said, if you want to cut the staff member, that's how you think we shouldn't use the money, we still need to budget for snow contractors, and we reduced that line item. So we'll have to make adjustments with the dollars that were given, but no, Liza, it didn't. It was a flat cut of $60,000.
And what's the net difference between, like, if we had presented the budget initially without the removal of the snow, the plowing subcontractor,
So we had
and
this year
not the
budget.
additional staff member, because I remember, like,
Yes.
it was not an even split or an even trade, but it was not significantly the amount of money of an increase as it appeared overall with the removal of some money from the plowing subcontractor. Is my
So-
question, do I make
Yeah,
sense?
no, it does make sense. I don't, this is the first meeting I've had here, so I don't have all of my documents in front of me that I've gotten accustomed to. We cut, it was about $23,600 and some change, I believe was the number for one snow contractor. Remember, we typically ask for two. We only got one, so we had to supplement with our own staff. And it was someone who then we were paying an upgrade every time they plowed snow. So we cut that $23,000 and increased salary line item by $40,000 to $48,000. And so what they did was cut the what they believe would be, the truck payment, as well as the $48,000 for staff. We would need to budget for two snow contractors. That's what I would suggest that we do. And so it's really going to mean a shift of that budget and some interesting changes. We did, one of the other significant increases in that budget was $25,000 for tree removal. And there's no question in my mind that that needs to be done. We know that safety is an issue if we don't remove the trees we know to be diseased and potentially falling from the emerald ash borer and the gypsy moths. So I see Troy shaking his head, so I gave the right disease of tree. So, to me, the budget, I would have preferred they leave the dollars where they were, because I still believe that 60,000 they cut is about what we'd need if the bids come in higher. So that's assuming we get snow contractors at all. If we don't get anyone who bids on our snow contracting, we have a real problem. We will not have enough staff members to plow the number of routes that we currently have. So again, the budget hearings tomorrow, if either of you are able to attend and support the budget that we put forth. Again, we had a plan. We knew Troy asked for several items and we weren't able to put in as much as he would have liked to have seen. He's come to us with several different requests over these last two budgets. And we, said, let's see what we can do with one staff member. We are down. I did a comparison. I shared it with all of you and the Board of Finance of our like towns that are similar size and mileage to the town of Willington. And they all have a larger staff than we do. Most of them have 6 full-time employees. We have less than that, and they have separate transfer station employees. Ours are combined. We do have one who's part-time transfer station and part-time laborer with Public Works. So we, I think we know we're at a significant disadvantage. And our Public Works Director, who's out there doing the work every day, has been clear with us and honest with us. Are they getting jobs done? Yes. Could we be doing more? Should we be doing more? Absolutely. And I'm not sure, and I feel a little bit I'm preaching to the choir. Again, we set forth a budget that did have those dollars in it. So again, if you're able to go, otherwise I will report back and we will see what happens as the budget moves from budget hearing to the annual town meeting and then forward to budget referendum. Any questions on updates? I'll move on to our Public Works update. Troy is in attendance with us.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. You're muted again. Though. There you go.
All right. We started grading some of the dirt roads. We started street sweeping last week to see if the sweeper was going to make it. We did some repairs to that. So we'll be in full swing sweeping starting this week. We picked up the trash at the park. We cut some trees down at the senior center. We installed the water tank on one of the trucks and a new water pump. We patched holes. We painted one of the truck bodies. We installed, replaced some stop signs and a road sign on Batty Road. We've done some roadside mowing and we cleaned up Hall's Pond for the rec department there. There were some trees that fell, so we chipped that up for them. And that's about it.
So I will mention that, I think I mentioned at our last meeting that we had a resignation in Public Works. The labor technician position is available. That closes tomorrow at 2 p.m. Since then, we had a resignation from our assistant transfer station operator. And so that also we advertised for, and that will close tomorrow at 2 p.m. So not only do we have, in my opinion, a crew that needs to be increased, we are now down one full-time staff in the Public Works Department. So if we, we'll take a look at the applications once they close tomorrow and then determine whether or not it's possible, especially for the labor technician position, that we may need to extend that longer to see if we get more qualified applicants. Troy, can you share with us a little bit? We had talked about some reopening things, and the swap shed was one of them. And that is going forward. It's this Saturday, the 10th. We're planning to reopen the swap shed. So if you could talk to us about your plans.
All right, so we're gonna open it up Saturday. We're allowed 2 people in there for 5 minutes of time, per person. If it gets to be a problem, we're gonna shut it down. I know everybody's excited with it, but it's in a small area. We still want everybody to wear masks. So just give it some time up there. If you see a line, just kind of move forward, come back at a different time. It's going to be hard. I know everybody wants that open, but we kind of got to follow the rules here with social distancing and stuff like that. So we're going to have some signs up there. Just do the best you can. Keep your distance, and keep your time to 5 minutes to let everybody else at least have a chance to get in there and swap some stuff out.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think the key there is encouraging people that have to wear their masks. And if it becomes a bottleneck and it becomes a place where people are congregating, there's just not a lot of space at the transfer station anyway. We want to keep people moving. So we'll keep you updated on how that goes. But this Saturday and Sunday, swap shed will be back open. All right. Okay, on to new business. I wanted to bring to you a discussion a little bit about the treasurer position. I think we know that historically this is not always an easy position to fill. It is currently an elected position. I have been informed that our current treasurer, Lori Semperbaum, does not wish to run, I won't say re-election. She was appointed in the middle of a term. Therefore, it would be up to the parties to put candidates forth on the ballot. We have seen a turnover in treasurers in our time of this board, and it can cause significant issues. With an elected position, we don't know what we're going to get, right? You're going to get a resident, and they need to be qualified in that manner in order to run for public office. What we don't have any control over is what their skill set is and bringing someone up to speed. We have a small finance office, and the work then often falls on our finance manager. And that's a concern for me with a new system in place. I'm not sure that our finance manager can take on one more role. And in the event, someone is going to have to show them how things work, right? So they're separate departments. The treasurer is its own department. They are their own department head. They don't have any hours. I hesitate to say that any amount of time goes into this position. I hesitate to say it's a 15 to 20 hour a week position. I think that's incorrect. I think we're leading someone astray by saying that. I think it's significantly more work. And I would like us to investigate the possibility of making this an appointed position as opposed to an elected position. I haven't had time to fully take a look at it all. We did reach out to CCM to do some research for us on elected versus appointed treasurers and some sample job descriptions, as well as asking, there was some survey work about what the salaries were. And so it's remotely different when they work within the finance office or if they're just an appointed official with some similar duties. So what I would like to do is share this with you all. We had hoped that the information would come prior to our meeting. You have time. You know, I'd get it to you all and then we could take a look at it and talk this over together. I don't see us coming to any kind of conclusion right away. Similar to the town clerk, if we were to change like they did, it would have to go to a town meeting. And, you know, it would be a new ordinance. But I think it's worth investigating. I think it's an incredibly important job. We have had some folks really come in here and work hard and do their best for us, but without the right skill set, boy, let me tell you, this could be a real problem for us. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on pursuing this discussion.
I mean, I would be interested in having the discussion. I think having the background information's key to engaging in a good conversation. But I think it's something worth thinking about. I know that it would likely be a hurdle since, you know, I recall the conversations when we were having the same discussion about the town clerk, moving that from elected to appointed. But it is not something that I'm not willing to consider. So, you know, with the right information, I think a conversation would be great in the near future, but most likely not this moment.
Right. Yeah, and I don't expect us to make any decisions now. There's a lot of work to be done on it. But when the information was presented to me, I thought this is the opportunity for us as a board to start having this conversation about it. John?
Off the top of my head, I prefer having the treasurer, like in all these other positions, be a citizen of the town. And the only way we can guarantee that is keeping it as elected. We've always managed to make it with the treasurer, and I think we can continue to do so. A lot of towns, the treasurer and the chief financial officer are the same person. And somehow that used to be, but I think that was 20 years ago or more that we had it here, and then we split them off. I'm not sure we couldn't go back to that. Electing a treasurer, that's kind of different from the other positions. You know, it's not political, like Board of Finance, Board of Ed, whatever. Everybody knows we need somebody who can do the job there and who's honest. And I think we can pretty much come up with, I think each party can probably pretty much come up with a reasonable candidate for that. So I tend to be against changing it.
I like your optimism, John, but I think you know how much difficulty we've had, again, just in our time in finding someone, and we've had 3, right? So we've had 3 different treasurers, and one of them had a solid background in it, and still was a lot. It's a lot to come up to speed. There is no staff here to train. Our business manager certainly has her hands full with what she has. Asking her to be the treasurer as well, I'm not sure it's something that we really, that's possible. I think there's other ways we can look at it. We could look at, an assistant in the finance director, and then, still maybe the treasurer position drops to a little bit less involved than it is now and still be elected. So there's an overseer that oversees that work, similar to what you're talking about, John. Instead of the business manager doing it, maybe there's an assistant in that office. And one of the pieces they do is that work. And then the elected treasurer, who then would be a resident of the town, would fill a role there. And I know some larger towns do that. So I think there are lots of ways we can look at it, but I'd like us to be able to have a good conversation about it. I'll share with you the information that we got from CCM today. They did a small sample of towns that were like Willington, and then we'll go from there and have that conversation. So I'd encourage you each to, bring some topics and points to the table, and I'll put this on the agenda for our next meeting. But it's a good time for us to talk about it. Lori is not planning to leave currently, so thankfully, we're good for right now. But I'd like us to continue moving forward with it, unless there's some opposition. Any other comments? Okay. I'll move on to discussion about fees at the transfer station. So Troy brought to me, we were going over fees at the transfer station, and one of the ones I'd like to propose a change to, and this is based on Troy's recommendation, is to what we charge for propane tanks. So currently, we charge $2 to take in any propane. You want to talk, Troy? Yes. You're already unmuted. No, now you're muted.
Something's going on with this computer. Okay, no, not to, just to go over that, not to interrupt you. We currently don't take any money we don't charge anything for our propane tanks. We charge Mighty Flame that takes the propane tanks, gives us $2 per tank if they're good. If the tank,
You charge nothing.
we charge nothing.
Okay.
We're proposing a $3 charge. So right now, Mighty Flame comes and gets our tanks, and for a good tank, they say they give us $2. If they say the tank is bad, they charge us $2. So there's sometimes when they'll come when we collect about 100 tanks. Sometimes they'll give us, we'll break even, and other times we owe them. And then the 30-pound tank and a 40-pound tank, we don't get a lot of them in, but we don't charge anything for them. So right now, Mighty Flame charges $8 for a 30-pound tank, and then $12 for a 40-pound tank in any condition. So if somebody brings a 40-pound tank up, it costs the town $12.
And so they never pay us for those two tanks.
They never pay us for those two tanks.
So we lose, someone brings us a 30-pound tank, we pay $8, and the resident has just dropped it off.
Yes.
So we're absorbing that cost. Okay. So the proposal is to charge $3 for a 20-pound tank, $10 for a 30-pound tank, and $15 for a 40-pound tank.
Yep.
We take the tanks in, we don't know if they're good or bad.
No,
So we don't know whether or not we're going to be charged or whether they're going to give us something to take them back.
Correct.
But we've been losing money currently
Yes.
on tanks.
Have we ever come out ahead when they came to pick up the tanks?
Sometimes the last one, I think we made $4 out of 100 tanks. So that's, yeah, unfortunately we can't, like Erica said, they don't, until they bring them to their facility and say the tank is good or bad, we don't know. We don't make that choice ourselves. That's up to them.
Do we have like an annual number of how much we either spend or whatever on this?
I can probably get that. I don't have it in front of you. I can.
That would be helpful, because if we're coming out ahead, $4 ahead is still ahead, right? Then there wouldn't be a need to do this. But if we're losing hundreds and hundreds of dollars every year, then I think it's a conversation worth having, just so we know where all these expenses are coming from and going. But I would be interested in seeing an average number for the last year, a couple of years, or whatever, whatever information we have.
Okay.
And Trey, you're saying they take them away and determine whether or not they're good or bad.
Yes, correct. Yes.
And I'm thinking most residents get rid of them because they believe that they're bad.
They're bad. Yeah.
But Mighty Flame makes that determination off-site.
Offsite. Yep.
Okay. All right. So seeing a request for some additional information, I'll move that we table this to our next meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of motion to table? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Troy. The next item is school building committee appointment. We had a resignation from Nico Summerzakis, who filled the role of a school Board of Education staff member. And so we did receive a request from a current staff member. Unfortunately, Nico's leaving Wellington Public Schools, so he wouldn't be able to fill that role. He would no longer be a staff member. So I'm going to make a motion to appoint Erica Brosher as a member representative from the Board of Education staff on the school building committee, effective April 6, 2021, expiring once the charge of the committee has completed.
Second,
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
Once again, I learned about this when I got my agenda and package on Friday. And we have appointment. Now, we also have went out, we had someone who had expressed an interest in it in the past, and you got a letter today, I believe, from Jim Bulick recommending Ralph Toulis, who I think would be an outstanding candidate. I'm sorry that Miss Bourgeois, I believe, that Ms. Bourgeois is not here tonight.
but this is a specific position. This isn't a member at large. This is the representative from the board.
Board of Education staff.
Right, so this isn't open to anybody. Is Ralph Toulis a member of the Board of Education staff?
I
So
believe
No, so when this board formed the committee, we determined that there would be people from particular areas, Board of Finance, Board of Education member, Board of Education staff member, and Mr. Summerzakis was a staff member. And so this, to me, it's an important role to fill. We chose it specifically in those categories. And Ms. Brosher is a staff member of the current Wellington Board of Education staff. And so I think it's vital that we have input from staff. That's why we chose those 11 members in the beginning. And we have 5 at large. So I don't see this as an at-large position, but replacing a Board of Education staff member with a Board of Education.
See, I think there are plenty of of educators on this board already.
There is a Board of Education member and then a member of the BOE staff. So a staff member, not a board member.
And a couple of teachers, I believe, are also on there, aren't they? That
There
are
is
members of-
one who works for Wellington Public Schools.
Yeah, who is
And
not
he
who is not
resigned.
as a member. Well, isn't I thought Andrew Grosjean was on there, isn't she? A
She's
retired.
representing the Board of Education. There's another member who happens to be a teacher in another town.
It's true. And we had 2 members. Originally, it was supposed to be 1 member of the Board of Education, but that ended up with 2 members of the Board of Education.
There's only 1 member of the Board of Education.
And anyway, I know we have a lot of educators on there. I wish I had their name. Miss Bourgeois, where does she live?
I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
It doesn't matter though, John. She's filling a position that was specifically allocated for a staff member from Wellington Schools.
Have we already decided that there's no question about whether we're going to build, we're going to build a new school, right? That's been decided?
No,
I don't
We have
know. John, I'd encourage you to maybe go to meetings and see. There has been no project determined. That committee is actually working to determine what is best to move forward to the town, and they're gathering information. So our point of order is that the motion on the table is to appoint Erica Brosher as a member representative from the Board of Education staff.
Are you cutting off discussion?
I'm cutting off discussion that is not in keeping with the motion of appointing this individual. What you believe or don't believe is the project is irrelevant to the motion on the table.
Motion is just, we're going to appoint a name. We aren't going to discuss qualifications.
I didn't say that.
If the
we were discussing
We were discussing
qualifications.
qualifications when
if the individual is not a resident of the town, okay, now you're going to appoint someone who's not even a taxpayer in the town. And I don't know if she is or not. I know she's not registered to vote in town, but
But she is speaking, this position on the school building committee was set aside for representation from the staff that teach our children. So whether or not she's a resident is irrelevant. She is representing the voice of our teachers, and whether they live in town or not, they're still teaching our children who do live in town. So this is the specific vacancy for which we are voting on right now. Her residency status is not what's important. Her fitting the qualifications of being a staff member with the Willington Public School System is the qualification.
well, I wish we had some representatives for the people of the town.
We do, John. There are multiple.
It's 11 members.
It's an 11-member board, John. So again, is there any further discussion on the current motion on the table?
No,
Seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Lessington,
no,
Baritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. I want to thank Ms. Brosher for her willingness to serve on behalf of the Board of Education staff. All right, moving on, item D, the MS4. This is one of our favorite topics in our very urban community, and I say that with much sarcasm. One of the items, and we've talked about this before, it's, John, I know you've had a concern about it, I do too, was a proposed ordinance, the illicit discharge and connection stormwater ordinance. There's not a whole lot about this that I agree with or that I like. Determining who's going to enforce such an ordinance, if it were to become an ordinance, is problematic at best. But in order for us to be compliant in the MS4 currently, we have to at least put forth an ordinance to be voted on. Now, the MS4 cannot require the town to have an ordinance. We can't require people to vote in favor of, but we have yet to put this to a vote in town meeting. And that is where we're at today. In order to be compliant in the current process of the MS4, we need to put forth an ordinance. And I know, John, you had asked this in a previous meeting, the last time this was brought up. What if it doesn't pass? There's nothing in the MS4 that says we have to have the ordinance. Again, we have to put forth an ordinance. We can't guarantee it would ever be voted. None of us can guarantee how the townspeople in a town meeting will vote. So it's very likely something this convoluted is the word I will use today, would pass. Is surprising. I have lots of problems with this because typically when we move something forward, it's because we believe in it. We are supportive of it. If I were to vote in favor of moving this to a town meeting, it would simply be to put it to vote by townspeople. And that this is the ordinance that would fill the requirement in the MS4, but not necessarily one that I wholeheartedly support we pass. If that makes sense.
so what would be the ramifications if we did not bring it to town meeting?
We would still be in compliance with the MS4 because again, we cannot control the outcome of a vote of the people. They have the right to vote yes in favor of this ordinance or no. We might have to look and rework, but at this point, they've given us kind of a blanket ordinance in which to put forth. I'm not sure how it would need to be reworked so that it would work in town.
John, was your question, what if we never,
What if
put
we
it
never
to a
vote?
what if we never put it to a vote?
Town meeting?
Yeah. My understanding currently, and Troy and I have been working on this for a while, is that we have to attempt to pass an ordinance, right? Again, they're not putting forth on us, it says this is law, that would be different. They're giving us the opportunity to put forth an ordinance. And I struggle with this. I struggle bringing it to you because I wouldn't typically move something forward that I just didn't believe in and believe that, people should have a say in. But we're being told very clearly that in order to remain compliant, we have to at least attempt to pass an ordinance. So whether it be this or something that we alter.
Well, I think I wrote down a bunch of alterations that I would make in this. And I understand going through the whole thing of a town meeting. What are we gonna do? I personally am against the ordinance simply because it's a bureaucratic nightmare, which would be probably be a good ordinance for Venezuela or maybe North Korea or something. But I don't like this. Bringing it to, I don't know, it's just creepy. We're going to bring it to a town. We don't want you to vote for this, but we're going to bring it to you. That doesn't sound good to me either. What would happen if the proposal to go to a town meeting was brought up with this ordinance was brought up before the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen voted against the town meeting? Would that qualify?
Yeah, I don't know, John, that's a good question. But
That was, well, we would have
yeah,
made.
I mean, that is a good question. I think we all struggle with this. We struggle with the MS4 in our community as a whole. But this is one that I clearly, when we sat down with folks from the state, the last time we had an in-person, they were probably one of our last real in-person meetings, and talked about this specifically and said, look, what if we wholeheartedly believe in this ordinance and we still take it to town meeting? There's no guarantee it passes. So one of the things is an ordinance, and in order to move compliant, we can't just say we're working on it, because we're actually not. We're actually not working on an ordinance. We've just kind of dug our heels in and said we're not moving one forward. And the ordinance is up to the electors of the town. And so is it our responsibility to then move something forward and have everyone else, maybe see it in a similar fashion? I don't know. What I can do, John, I would encourage you, if you have lots of changes you mentioned, share them with Heather so she can share them with the board. We can all take a look at them together and work on it together. In the meantime, we'll ask that question. Right, so the same way we can't guarantee how a vote at board meeting, a town meeting can go, we can't guarantee how a vote of this board would go to move it forward to town meeting.
Okay, I will get my proposed changes to Heather. And by the way, now where did we get this this piece of paper? This came from the state?
Yes,
So this is the state's proposed ordinance for
this was
this.
their proposed, yes, suggested ordinance. I won't say proposed, it was their suggested ordinance. And what I haven't done yet is look at to see how many towns that are under the MS4 have adopted an ordinance and what they look like. And we can take a look at that too, to see if others really, change theirs dramatically, or if those that did pass one that used the language of the proposed order, the suggested ordinance.
Okay.
Liza, any additional?
No, I'd be interested to hear what you learn about the steps in the process and what we are obligated to do. Because clearly, because you can't be told as the first selectwoman, you've got to make sure that the Board of Selectmen passes this. That's against everything that a Board of Selectmen is about. So, it's always confused me. It has not yet stopped confusing me that we are subject to this and the process. So, yeah, I mean, my thoughts are just as they have always been about this.
Yeah, and you know, John's point is good. If we vote no to take it to town meeting, is that our attempt? Is that our attempt? Because all I can guarantee is one vote. I can't guarantee how anything else goes, and I could never say how a vote goes, a vote of people. So it's the same way as town meeting, but I hadn't thought of it the other way, John. I hadn't thought if we voted not to take it to town meeting. So I'll look at that.
And
into that.
in all honesty, you shouldn't be able to guarantee your one vote because they asked, right?
Well, I
Your
can't
your
guarantee
vote
which way it would go. I can guarantee that I will vote.
that
I
you
can't
have
guarantee
one,
how I
right,
will vote.
right.
That's how, oh yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I
because,
can only guarantee one vote in any direction.
right,
That's it. I could never speak to how someone else would vote. So the whole thing is convoluted to me. If you wanted it to be something we had to do, then I would think it would be a statute, not an ordinance by individual towns. So, you know, I don't know, is our ordinance that we choose not to have an ordinance? Maybe that's the ordinance we pass. Who knows? So there aren't a lot of things that we've often agreed upon, but the three of us agree that this is malarkey.
it's bananas.
I mean, it is completely bananas that we are an urban community just for our stormwater. All right, so I'll look at those things and we'll continue this conversation. All right, I apologize as I grab notes I moved here. All right, American Rescue Plan funding. So you'll hear me reference it as the ARP because it's a lot less to say. And this is the stimulus plan that was passed in Washington. And I'd given you some information on dollars we were set to receive. So it looks now like we are set to receive one lump sum of money made up of two portions. So we're getting money as a non-entitlement town or city, and that's $578,970. And then the county money, Connecticut is one of only, I think, 2 states that do not use a county government system. And so money was allocated to counties for local government. And our legislators fought to make sure that Connecticut saw some of the money in the same way. So it's been allocated based on population. And the current figure that I've been told that we'll be getting of those funds is $1,137,287. I see Liza's jaw drop a little bit. So that would be a total of $1,716,256. We're still set to receive that in 2 buckets, one within 90 days of March 11th, and then one a year from now. So still waiting on the very specific details or more details. What we are hearing now is that Treasury will probably take all of their 60 days that they have to deposit the money to the state of Connecticut to come up with the language on how we can use it. We have 4 very, very broad categories. And I have a folder of things that maybe we could, use some of these funds on. So I'll keep you posted on that. The funds must be spent by the end of calendar year 2024. So it's not as though we need to use it in the next 6 months or we lose it, but we do want to use it. I did get some clarification that unlike the last bit of CARES money, we do not have to go through FEMA first to use this money. The last money we saw, we first had to apply to FEMA so that they could make you jump through hoops and then deny almost every request, only to go back to get money from the state. But our last pot of money was 46,000 and change. Certainly not 1.7 million. It's not the 30+ million some cities are getting, but to Wellington, $1.7 million is a lot of money, and we want to make sure we use it strategically to help our town, our residents, small businesses, etc. So I will keep you posted as we go. And if you know anybody at Treasury, ask them to speed up their plans, please. Okay. Moving along to tax refunds. I will move to refund Sheila Sauer $9.11 on an overpayment.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. And I will move to refund $457.41 to Jessica Gall on a certificate of correction.
Second.
Oh, any discussion? Sorry. Seeing no discussion, call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, 21-22 budget update. My apologies, I covered that update under Selectmen status report. Do you all have any other questions about the budget process? Where we're at, I will tell you, I did defend our budget multiple times to the Board of Finance. Tomorrow is the budget hearing, immediately following a special meeting of the Board of Finance, where if they make any adjustments to the appropriations they already had, would be done at that time. That will then be adjourned to town meeting, which is scheduled for April the 6th. No, April 20th. I'm sorry, Tuesday, April 20th. And then from town meeting would move to the budget referendum, which is scheduled for Tuesday, May the 4th.
And I know it's the guidance document or whatever regarding this, the ARP has not yet been given to you, but I'm assuming the Board of Finance has been made aware of the 1.716256 and something amount of cents that I didn't catch, incoming ARP funds.
I don't know that I've shared that with them yet. I don't believe I've done it in writing. I got this information last week. And when I picked my jaw up off the floor, it came in some, it hasn't come formally from, I received it from one of our state legislators. I haven't received the communication from Treasury or the state. OPM will be handling the monies, but I will tomorrow at their meeting. Typically at their next meeting, I've been updating them as a board on those dollars. So I will absolutely be sharing it with them tomorrow. I would love to be able to say to them, here's what we can take out of the budget. I think we can take these things out because we can use these dollars, but without more specific language, I hesitate to do that and then find that they not qualify. So, you know, there many towns and cities in the same place as us as we're building our budgets. We really wish we had more guidance now so that if we could not pass things along to taxpayers that didn't need to be, we couldn't. But how they would relate to COVID and some of the things that are in our budget, there aren't a lot of things in our budget that are directly related to COVID. Could they be in some way, shape, or form? I believe so, but you know, again, that guidance is really what's going to be key. So I will be updating them tomorrow. Any other questions about the budget? I will move along to a COVID update. Currently, Wellington has 228 cumulative COVID positive patients with 19 probable cases. And no new increase in death of Wellington residents. So that's an increase of 8 COVID positives since our last meeting. We are still in the yellow alert level. So we had, which means we had 8.5 cases per 100,000. So we are seeing an uptick in our extended community, specifically with Yukon next door. You're seeing, you've probably heard some things on the news about increases in the Mansfield area. So, you know, our health district and my office are encouraging organizations, families, and individuals to continue to be vigilant, practice basic COVID precautions, wear a mask, wash your hands, and stay socially distanced. Certainly as we things begin to open up a little bit more. As of last Thursday, April 1st, All residents 16 years of age and over are now eligible to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. Willington Public Schools has their second dose clinic tomorrow. So 2 weeks from that, our staff that chose to receive the vaccine, because remember, it's not mandated, it's still optional, will be considered fully vaccinated. As far as vaccine data, and this is data as of the 31st of March, we have vaccinated a total of 30.1% of our residents with first doses. The only data sets that I'm getting specific information from for the state are those 65 and over and 75 and over. I'll tell you, they're almost fully vaccinated. We have 93% of our 75 and over vaccinated and 111% of our 65 and over. So yes, I'm waiting for clarification on how that could possibly be. You can't all live in Willington. And my guess is that the population numbers have changed from their estimated population. I think that's really the only true answer. So I'll share with you if I get some clarification on that. But so we're making good progress. Again, with those who want to be vaccinated, it is still optional. I do want to make a point as far as vaccines of thanking the town of Vernon. They partnered with us to hold a clinic for those 65 and 75 and above when our numbers weren't looking as good as surrounding towns. So we worked with them to set up a clinic. The second dose clinic already happened, so we were able to give doses to a significant number of folks in that age range. And as a result of that, the town of Vernon really stepped up and helped us with appointments for our age eligible staff. I missed it by a day. I had gotten my own appointment, but they really, they made it easy for our municipal staff who wanted to be vaccinated to get appointments. And then last week, they worked with me to get our age eligible who became eligible on Thursday. And they actually, those who wanted to today were vaccinated with their first dose. So I'm grateful to them for helping us and looking out for some of our residents. If we had the opportunity to work with them in the future, we'll continue to do so. So I know it was a huge help for those who needed a vaccine. The current emergency declaration was extended beyond the April 19th date to May 20th. That did happen last week. It first passed the House and then the Senate. So I know my concern was that it was supposed to just cut off with no kind of path forward on April 19th. And so we've been given a little bit of a reprieve as we continue to work towards getting folks vaccinated, more fully vaccinated. We did hold a hybrid town meeting last week. We had one individual outside of the folks that were helping to run it. You see Mr. Blessington laugh because he was our one. He sat in the chairs by himself looking for some friends to join him.
Is the word you're looking for.
You what?
Forlorn.
Yes. So we did have 25 people join us virtually at the town meeting. And it was a success. I can tell you, if it seemed flawless, it's because much work went into the process behind the scenes here. So Heather really took the lead on making that happen and working with our registrars and the town clerks. We had many a test trial run to see how things went. We had hoped that there would be a room full of people so that we could, kind of have two things going on at once, but it didn't happen. There were more people because the registrars and the town clerks were here with us. But for the general public and of the 15 seats we had, it was just Selectman Blessington who joined us. So thanks, John. At least gave us an opportunity to test it out in the room and on Zoom. So we'll look towards making a hybrid meeting for our annual town meeting on April 20th. And then again, after much discussion on reopen, currently decided to remain open by appointment only here at the town office building. Our lack of space to social distance folks who are waiting to get from department to department is one of the concerns. Another was that until Thursday, we had a significant number of our staff who weren't eligible to receive a vaccine. So while I'm concerned about residents in the town and their safety coming in, I'm also equally concerned about our staff and maintaining their safety as they serve the public. So we're going to maintain our appointment only status again, at least once a day. Correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, if someone comes to our door, knocks on our door that does not have an appointment, if we're able to help them, we still do. So we haven't turned anyone away. They might have to wait, but we have been able to conduct the business people need regardless. And so we'll continue to do so. And we'll continue with our board and commission meetings in this virtual capacity until we can find a safe way. Being able to put a couple of people on this table and everyone be able to see and see them is one thing. Putting 8 people in a working space and then being able to have the public in our very small options for meeting spaces is difficult. So we're working on a plan for that. And so I'm looking at early June as the next point to potentially open things up a little bit more. The library is open, but the senior center remains closed. And Troy talked to you earlier about the swap shed opening and managing social distance and wearing masks. And as people they're still required to wear a mask when they come into this building, we still ask you to wear a mask at the transfer station, etc. And we are working on a municipal operations guide that we'll share with residents in the coming weeks that will really detail all of the services and any changes in place with departments and facilities here in town, whether it be specifically our parks or the senior center or the library or any office here in this building. So kind of a one-stop shopping outside of just the website in one document where folks can find all that information. Any questions? That's all I have for my update this week. Seeing nothing else, I will move to present to speak. If you are present, you can unmute yourself, and I ask you to identify yourself and limit yourself to 2 minutes. Is there anyone present to speak? Okay. I'll share a couple items for good and welfare. John and Liza, if you have anything, let me know. Again, fire danger is still a concern. And so remind folks that if you are looking to burn brush up to 3 inches in diameter, you have to have a valid signed permit from the local open burning official. You have to meet certain criteria, and the fire danger is certainly going to be an issue as to whether or not you can burn that day. So ask people to be cognizant of that and contact us if you have any questions. You can find all things COVID at ct.gov/coronavirus, and the data that I share from the state is all embedded in that website. Our mobile food share is going to be next Wednesday, the 14th, and then Wednesday, the 28th of April, from 11 a.m. to 11:30 here at the town office building. This Friday at 12:30, there'll be a distribution of Farmers for Families food boxes. Our Human Services Department is working with the Mansfield Lions to distribute those, and there should be 50 boxes. We'll start at 12:30 and we'll go as long as we still have boxes here. So if anyone has any questions about that, it is open to any and all. It is drive up. And then it is first come, first serve. But you can contact Human Services if you have any questions. Again, if you can, please support our small businesses and restaurants. I'm asking our organizations, families, individuals to continue to be vigilant, practice basic COVID precautions, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay socially distant, and remember to think beyond ourselves as we get through this. Budget hearing is tomorrow. The annual town meeting is April 20th. and the referendum is scheduled for May 4th. Any other items for good and welfare? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to enter into an executive session for a personnel matter,
I'll second.
seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so if you're joining us at this point, Heather will remove you from the meeting. And I thank you for joining us. Heather, can you make me the host? You just did, thank you. I think that's what she now. She did, I
Yes,
know.
yes,
Thank you.
I just did.
Let me just remove Lewis and then Heather.
So it's just the
Who's that?
three of you
Just the
now.
three of us. Yep, there was no one there to invite, so.
Okay, I'm gonna,
All right, I can just continue the recording. We have left executive session at 8:04 PM. Is there a motion on, in the matter of the personnel matter at hand?
I don't know exactly what language.
I'll make
to
a
use.
motion that our response be to deny the grievance presented.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 yeses, motion carries. All right, seeing no other matter before us, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Liza. All those seconded by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Now stopping the recording.